it's recording on the other phone too. Mic check, 1, 2.
Mic check. Welcome to the inaugural Anchored in Real Estate podcast.
Old school and Maverick in the house.
We're going to crush it. So get on board.
Yeah.
Welcome to the inaugural Anchored in Real Estate podcast. Here we are. It's our initial show. We're kicking it off. We're stoked. We're glad you're with us. In our show, we're going to cover all things home, real estate. There's a lot of weaving with personal stuff because we got so many stories, but we're going to focus on educating. We might get lucky and entertain from time to time, but really we want people to kind of learn, be able to kind of learn from our mistakes and from our, hopefully from our expertise. I'm Johnny Dugan. I just read that. And I'm joined here with my co-host, Cody Chembars, the anchor man himself. Cody's a longtime realtor here in Georgia, of course, but most importantly, he is the broker for Anchor Real Estate Advisors, my brokerage. He can be found at Anchorman86 on the Facebook. Go find him. Okay. I'm Johnny Dugan. I'm the residential real estate craftsman of the deal. Let's see if that sticks. But you can find me at Mountain Mansions GA on Facebook and Instagrams. So, yeah, here we go. We're firing off.
Woo! After 20 minutes of getting this set up.
Oh, yeah. Well, and we're so good at it, maybe we had to do it twice, but that's okay.
That's for a later episode.
So this is our first show. And so hopefully this is the first and worst. It will get better.
It only gets better from after the first time. Yeah.
But in today's show, we do want to cover a topic that kind of refuses to go away, and that's this idea that there's going to be a market crash. There's impending doom, and we talked about it. We agree that everybody should just stop paying your mortgages.
Yes,
just stop and just shut it down because the ship's sinking, and you're just wasting your money. So, but before we explain all that, we decided we were told that viewers like personal information. The introvert in me might not understand, but let's give a couple of minutes on our first episode. Well, hey, how did we get here? How did you get here, Cody?
How did I get here? Well, it's been a long time coming. I've been licensed since March of 2015. And when I received my real estate license, I was actually still an elementary school teacher. And the turning point for me, how I ended up in real estate, was I was on WIC. My family and I, we had a young family at the time. We only had one child and with expecting our second. And now we're up to 5, but I'll get to that in just a second. I ended up going into Walmart and I had to use those WIC vouchers, and it was humiliating for me. And so that was a turning point. I reached out to my father-in-law, and he was in real estate, survived the crash, and said, you need to get your real estate license. At least get some part-time money or some extra money. And so I did. And then within a year of doing full-time real estate, I almost made as much money as I did the full year teaching. And so I made that decision 2016, never looked back.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful life. 5 kids, you said?
5 kids, yes. 12 all the way down to 2.
Yeah.
And yes, if you're watching this, we do have a TV in our room.
Now.
No, we've had a TV in our room. Just doesn't get watched. It's very dusty. Yeah.
Awesome. How I got here, a little different. I'm older, but I have a wife and I have 2 young boys, 7 and 5. And my journey here is a little different. I've had a full career in military contracting. I did 22 years working for Special Forces, and an extremely rewarding career. Got to travel and deploy all over the world and deploy with the best and the finest. I've been to Afghanistan twice, Qatar, UAE, Philippines, South Korea, Germany a handful of times, and anywhere, any military base that has a SF presence. The cool thing about that job and working with technology is great, and you work with the best people, but you're on the road and traveling all the time. And really my turning point was when I had the boys, or I should give my wife more credit, when she had the boys. And then but I was still traveling all over the place, and that it didn't feel fair. And then COVID grounded everybody, and I think just gave us a sense of, just wanting to be around more. Now, real estate, I had my real estate license back in 2005. It's effectively been a hobby, or, it was a little more than a hobby. I had 2 rentals, and I was working on a flip house and then put my own house. And then I lived through the crash, but I've always loved real estate. I've been plugged into real estate in one way or another, part of an investment club and things like that. But knowing that when I was done doing all the military contracting, I was going to go back into real estate. So during that decision making during COVID, my wife's job turned, that it could be more mobile. I decided that I could take a job that was more mobile, or at least remote or whatever. So it was a bit of a sacrifice, but we wanted to be with family. And that's how we got to Georgia. But it's the day my feet hit the ground here in Georgia, I got my license, where I went through the process of getting the license, and then came to see you right away. And so real estate's always been in my background. My family, my Georgia family, we're all in real estate. I'm also a small-time builder. Along with being a realtor. So it's make a career of what you love to do. And then, and so that's how we got here. And then the other thing is, I think I have good advice. So I figured I'd put it out on the internet.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's how we got here. And then we love to hear the comments, and, if people have questions and all that. And then check us out on the Facebooks. And then, we're not shy about showing, who we are, and, our handsome family and all that. So now we're going to jump right into this topic, because I didn't start the timer, because I'm a rookie.
It's the first one. It's only going to get better from here, right?
So let's see. I could do this, right? I can cheat and say we are 10 minutes in.
10 minutes.
Okay.
So we got to.
Yeah, we're wrapping.
We got this. We got this.
All right. So we've been talking about this since, really since, COVID happened, then the recession, and then rates dropped, and then the real estate market got just ridiculously hot, which, by the way, pre-COVID was a pretty hot market. But the interest rates really, put some fuel to the fire. And then we saw things go bananas. And then there's a sense that if things go bananas, what rise must fall. Right.
Yep.
And I've told you this. I did live through the 2008-9 crash, and I did have, we'll call it a small investment portfolio, and it was kind of painful. So I've been on the lookout for the reasons why, to be really conservative about real estate. And so what we hear is, I'm not going to jump in, or it's going to crash, and we're just kind of waiting for the crash, or I'm waiting on the impending doom. What say you about the impending doom here in real estate, generally in the market?
Yeah, well, I think there's so much misinformation that's being shared. I mean, if you get on TikTok, that's my, I guess, source of choice to consume real estate videos. Some people are Instagram. Yeah. But, a lot of these real estate influencers are speculating, hey, don't buy, 26 is going to crash. So it's like, the average consumer that has no idea of the real estate market, if they're watching this, then they might very easily fall subject to believing what they're watching.
Yeah.
And so, that's where we come in, right? We want to tell them the truth. And, at the end of the day, when someone purchases or when someone decides to sell, it's on their own timeline. We're not rushing people to do that, right?
Yeah.
That's not our style.
Right.
But so, what do I think that the market's going to do? The last time the real estate market crashed, and we talked about this in our brokerage meetings. Do you remember when that was, Johnny? The last time we saw a market crash, pre-2008.
Yeah. Great Depression.
Even before that, early 1900s.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking like even before World War I.
Okay.
And so historically, if we go all the way back to the early 1900s and you look at a graph of how the real estate market has performed, it's always performed at an increase, at a good, healthy increase. Right. The only time we saw that dip was in 2008,
right?
2009, 2010. But why did it crash, right?
So that's the key. What are the fundamentals that caused the crash?
Right.
2 big fundamental elements. One, ridiculous mortgages. The ability to get mortgages and money. And and I mentioned I was an investor at the time. I did a no doc stated income loan. What's that mean? I gave them no bank records. I gave them no pay stubs. And all I had to do was physically write. I remember writing down my income on the application, a one-page mortgage application with no docs. All they did was run my credit. So at the time, I happened to have good credit. And they gave me a loan for a second home in terrible condition because it was one I was going to flip. Point is, call it what you want, but that was irresponsible lending.
Correct.
And that was rampant.
Yes.
And so the big fundamental that really caused that was it was a foreclosure problem and a mortgage problem, and that weighed everything down. There was also an element of builders were able to get money too easily, and they overbuilt. So
That's correct.
What took a while to recover was really burning through the over inventory from the 2008. And it took like 6 or 7 years to kind of get back.
That's right.
But that was two humongous problems that have both been kind of kept in check since. The biggest thing now is mortgages are a bit harder to get. They, if nothing else, they require all the legitimate documentation. There's still a lot of programs out there, relatively low down payments, ways to get in with a little less money up front. However, you are going to have to show that you have a job. You are going to have to show you've got a history. If you're self-employed, you need 2 years. And what we see is there's not a lot of give in that. Right. So the mortgage lending was in 2000, pre-2008 was a Wild Wild West. Now it's uber regulated. And so that's one thing now to tell me there's less likely to be a crash because there's less likely to be a foreclosure problem. Also, there's our equity position. A lot more people right now have more equity in their house, which means that if they did lose their job or something, they could sell their home and still have some equity left over. And then the last point is, we've talked about this and we're going to talk more about it, is we've identified what we call pent-up demand. And pent-up demand is real for us. I'm a data nerd. We look at the data all the time. We're in one of the fastest growing areas in the country, let alone in the state, the counties north Atlanta, where we're at.
Yep.
And we see the population going like this. Just talk to a local and listen to them complain about how many people are moving in. So we know the population is going like this, but the statistics say the number of home sales has actually come down, which is weird. They should essentially be parallel. The number of home sales and the population should both be doing something like this, right? Or if everybody's moving out, they'll both go like that.
Right.
But to have
tandem.
in tandem, tandem, parallel. But to have a much bigger population, but fewer sales means there's a lot of people that would normally, in the normal cycle of life, the 5-ish years, normal cycle of life would be moving. They're deciding not to. And there's a few reasons. I don't want to get all into it. But that's what we call pent-up demand. More population, less buyers, or less active deals, which means there's a lot of people ready to move, and they're just kind of waiting for that reason. And that means anything happens in the market, that pent-up demand is going to start to release. So the idea, if something started to crash, there's a lot of people waiting for a little bit of a slip, and then that will be when they jump in, and that will prop up a potential crash. Yep. They'll say, hey, I see that house is about $20K less. I think it's time for me to go ahead and get it.
Yep.
And that will keep the bottom from falling out.
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned it too about, there's a stat out there, roughly 50% of people that are homeowners in the United States, about a quarter of those, 25%, they own their home free and clear.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're talking 100% equity. They don't have a mortgage payment. It doesn't matter what the interest rates are doing. Right. It doesn't affect them. Right. And then, another 25 to 30% of people are they're in those golden handcuffs that we're going to talk about in a couple of episodes, where they've got a mortgage rate that is sub 3%, and that's free money. So you find yourself 50 to 55% of the entire home population or the homeowner population, they don't have to sell. They're not in a position where they don't want to release that low interest rate, the golden handcuff, or they own their house free and clear. And so it's just that weird dichotomy. But how does that point to a market crashing?
Right.
Right?
They can still make their payment.
Correct.
And there's the only thing it creates is a little bit of shortage in homes being available.
Correct.
That's kind of the key.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And then the builders, they are, at least the builders that we've talked to, some of them are ramping up, and they've tried to ramp up and really scale their production. But I think so many of them were harmed in 2007, 2008. They saw it was free money. Let's make as much money as we can, overbuilt, oversupply. And then, you found yourself in that perfect storm of.
There's a new model amongst builders that's more like they're slowing the roll and building their scalability is more based, or I should say it's less based on speculation and more based on what's actually selling. And they won't carry the same overage of inventory. And then they've just set up their businesses, because so many of them lost their businesses back then in 2008. Today they just have a fundamentally different mindset when it comes to building. So we did see a big ramp up last year. We saw like Lennar Homes go hardcore, and they started building, but we've seen them scale back. And so as soon as things get a little bit light on the sales side, those builders pull the reins back quick. And so that's what we see. And what that means is we're not going to have this massive over inventory. The builders aren't going to overbuild and overspend.
Yeah.
It's a different effect. So anyway, the bottom line there is we don't foresee a crash. There's been the TikTokers saying, hey, impending doom any day now. And then now we're 5 years later, and it's still actually, it's a slow market, but it's still a steady, relatively balanced market.
Yeah, and
we expect it to stay that way.
Yeah, the data is showing that. I mean, for the state of Georgia right now, you're looking at about a 5.8 month supply. And so obviously the state of Georgia is a very large state. We've got a lot of counties in it. I mean, but when where we've personally serviced the Dawsonville, Forsyth, Cumming, Lumpkin County, North Georgia areas, I mean, we're seeing days on market and month supply at anywhere between 4.5 to almost 6 months. Yeah. So a balanced market is 6 months.
Yeah, and that's it. Is that when you hear these numbers, months of inventory, 6 months is kind of what is industry standard of a balanced market. I got a home to sell. You want to buy a house. Neither one of us have a built-in leverage, and we're just going to negotiate and sell the house.
Yep.
Rather than what it was before, it was super low inventory, and the seller had the big advantage. They call it a seller's market. And by the way, the numbers you just stated, the inventory is way up. However, it still leans seller's market. We have not even ticked into what would be considered a buyer's market like 2009, 10, 11.
Right.
So even the way things are right now, it still leans sellers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that all points to, probably not going to crash. We don't anticipate a crash. I don't anticipate any huge jumps either.
Yeah.
I expect a relatively flat market. That's what we want.
Right.
I mean, we all want that 20% jump, but ultimately from an industry perspective, just easy, steady Freddy.
Yeah.
Even it out.
Yeah.
And that's what we anticipate. Nobody has a crystal ball, but there's just not a crash around the corner.
Right. So make sure that you pay your mortgage.
Oh, yeah. Come back to that first point. Yeah, pay your mortgage. We were joking.
That was just a hook to get you to listen to this point.
That's right. Yeah. Industry insider. We hook you into watching.
Yeah. If you don't pay your mortgage and you get behind, you need to call Johnny and I. And we're like, hey, we'll sell your house. But in all seriousness, it's not crashing. It's not. It's a corrective market. Yeah. It's a good thing. It got way out of hand. And if you are considering purchasing a home, now's a good time, right? I mean, you helped a first-time home buyer with one of your latest new construction. And I mean, I'm closing tomorrow actually with a first-time home buyer. They've received $20,000 in closing costs.
Right.
Like, that's unheard of. If this would have been 4 years ago, he would have been having to pay $20,000 over just to get this house.
Right. But the seller's not losing in that deal.
No.
The seller enjoyed that 50% increase in value ride.
Right.
And they're giving a small percentage of that, maybe 1% of it back. in concessions. So everybody's winning in that deal.
Right.
It's different from what it was 4 years ago. But to give a $10,000 concession or towards closing costs or whatever, that's not the sky falling.
No.
That's a balanced market.
That's right.
Because what it used to do in a normal balanced market, what would happen is you'd list your house for a little more than you thought it was worth, and then you'd come in, they negotiate, you'd list it for $500,000. Someone go, well, I'll give you $485,000, and you go, no, I'll take $490,000, and then you agree, and then you started with a number you knew you were going to come off of anyway. That was like just the standard negotiating 101. I just start a little bit high, then I work it down. So giving some concessions is different from 4 years ago. But it's standard. That's kind of the way the deal should be.
Right.
And by the way, you enjoyed this doubling in value over the last, 6-7 years.
Right. For doing
that doesn't mean crash.
Right. For doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this one up. Great first episode. You killed it. You look great.
It's my makeup department.
That's right. Yeah. Shout out to hair and makeup.
Yep.
Lighting's fantastic, and we really appreciate everybody who's put a whole bunch into this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a lot.
All right. We'll roll credits now.
Yeah. Roll credits.
All right. Talk to y'all. See you on the next one.
Yep.
Like and subscribe.
Yes. And follow for more.